This week on the Rental Report Review, She Mates and She Kills, Black Widow, 1987. The story of a love that became the most fearful thing that ever happened to a woman, Laura, 1944. Banned for 400 years, the most notorious of China's three great erotic sagas, revealed on the screen for the first time. Sex and Zen, 1991. Abandoned as a child, raised by the dark, The Blackcoat's Daughter, 2015. MGM's glorious love story with music, Meet Me in St. Louis, 1944.
Black Widow. She mates and she kills.
Psychosexual thriller from the late 80s by Bob Rafelson, starring Teresa Russell and shot by Conrad Hall. Sign me up. In the opening moments, Michael Small's best Herman impression of a jet-setting femme fatale clocked me as a total sucker. Then, well, we're introduced to Dennis Hopper as a children's toy magnate, and I had to double-check who the fuck wrote this. Ron Bass, the undisputed king of hits and misses. And while I think I'm relatively good at reserving judgment, this proceeded to miss more than an MK Ultra patsy. The writing just does not work, and by writing, I mean what both William Goldman and Dan O'Bannon refer to as writing. Structure, the events that happen, and the logical causal chains of how they're ordered. What leads to what and why is just so boring and ill-focused on patronizing feminism and baseless suspicion, rather than dogged investigation and cunning duplicity, that even a tanned and bikini-clad Teresa goddamn Russell, vamping and pouting her way through Hawaiian vistas did next to nothing for me. When a murder mystery depends on a dip to black at the climax, you've blown it. I give Black Widow 1987 3 stars. It's really about a star and a half, but Russell is still magnetic and Conrad Hall is still the master of locale, and both account for roughly 3/4 of a star each. Fatal Attraction is this same year, and Basic Instinct is not long after, and both make this feel like a made-for-TV movie of the week from 1950. But not even that, because then the queer-coded innuendo double-crossing would have been jacked to the sacred peak of Mauna Kea.
Black Widow.
Pretty sure this was a vacation movie for the cast and crew on Fox's dime, so props. Lol. I totally rented this without remembering, and recently. Literally the week before I started the rental report review, but totally forgot because I got all hot and bothered to see more Gene Tierney after watching Leave Her to Heaven and didn't check my Letterboxd or Instagram. In my defense, I've seen a good 176 movies in the interim. Maybe I need to slow down a bit, or maybe I need to start a re-review segment. Anyway. Back again for the one and only GT, whose performance here is retroactively shaded by her totally understandable and absolutely justified obsessive hysterics in Leave Her to Heaven, is all the more appreciably nuanced and hauntingly seductive here, even when she's strategically missing for most of the film and doesn't enter the frame until around minute 15. But really, rewatching allowed me to step back and study Otto Preminger's directed production a lot closer. I like Preminger. I mean, I've only seen Bunny Lake is Missing, a little fuzzy on that one, and Anatomy of a Murder. One wildly unflinching ride, and course breaker for Jimmy Stewart. This film, Preminger is an illusionist here. He tells you literally exactly what to pay attention to, and while keeping a seemingly tangential piece of information in mind, like a detective, I'm incessantly pawing to make this piece fit. And even when it comes to the pivotal moment of the film, I'm still flummoxed, right up until the shoe drops. Too busy counting basketball passes to notice the gorilla in the room. I give Laura 3.75 stars. It's missing something, obviously, since it didn't stick in my mind despite this genre being right up my dark, dank alley.
Yeah, I was just going to make the arrest when you called.
I think it's a shade too fantastically romantic for its own good, and there's maybe too many threads that are tugged but never fully taut, or some of the tension is released almost too quickly after it's introduced. I don't know. Maybe it needed more hot water, another corpse. Maybe Chandler needed to take a swipe. Fucking studio system. Gene Kearney, though. I know I haven't seen Where the Sidewalk Ends. Maybe I go there next. As a confirmed but respectable pervert, I've known of this film for a minute, but shot it to the top of my watch list after seeing my YouTube numbers dwindle, fingers crossed, and more importantly, reading an incredible Part 2 article on Hong Kong cinema and what led to the racy Cat 3 films of the late 80s and 90s by Brian Dembinski. I hope I'm getting your name right. In the Physical Media Advocate zine. Finally providing some structure to my Hong Kong cinema delving.
Penthouse 中文版連續3期搶先報導。
Sex and Zen was not what I expected at all. Well, I knew there would be some level of action and comedy involved, but I was in no way prepared for the cautionary tragic comedy that engorged itself before my eyes. Tragic comedy? Comic tragedy? Whatever. Emphasis surely on the comedy. Why do these exist? Across time and cultures, these sexual misadventures of naive youth, cads, and saintly sexperts. I think I'm answering my own question here. The harnessing of and personal and social integration of raw sexual energy, of lust, into total appreciation and satisfaction with your coupled lover. Blissful unity of mind, body, and spirit is perhaps one of the most sacred bonds in existence. I suppose how to hone that skill is very much a many-fold path, fraught with jealousy, betrayal, confusion, or total extraction of joie de vivre. I give Sex and Zen 3.25 stars. This was a slight letdown, not because I'm an insatiable perv that needs gratuitous throbbing members and eager quivering cleavages. Well, I'm not that. I guess I'm mostly disappointed that it plays much more to male juvenile titters than mature fantasies and fears. Not that there can't be both. The balance was just awkward and decidedly, and I don't say this frivolously, at least slightly anti-feminist by the end when our leading lady is sidelined for the reparation of the male pro and antagonist. Maybe that's how the 17th century tale goes, but it doesn't mean a 1980s contemporary retelling gets to not tarry with it. Not change, just tarry. That's all I ask.
嘉禾公司、麥當雄公司繼跛豪後再度攜手。
The action sex is amazing, but the standout sequence for me is a drunken mystical limb grafting that I don't think I'll ever expunge from my mind. Easily the funniest and most revealing of masculine insecurity in the film. All the more reason the finale is so flaccid. It's well worth the watch, though.
玉蒲團之偷情寶鑑。
This was recommended to me by a new friend and friend of the show and 31 Days of Horror podcast creator, Dan Davis. After we briefly talked about Longlegs, a film I know I am well in the minority opinion on with my 1.5 star rating. I am so sorry, Dan, but I am crestfallen to report that this writer-director debut by Osgood Perkins did not work for me either. I am quite fond of the wintry abandonment mood and the central and supporting casting, shout out to James Remar, but I have the same problems with this as I did with Longlegs, with The Witch, and with a whole host of other late-stage postmodern and post-postmodern horror thriller cinema. The best stupid term I can think of is obfuscation molasses. Slow is not creepy or meaningful, and repeatedly cutting out of revelatory scenes just before anything happens or before consequences are levied does not imbue mystery or horror. It abdicates the central responsibility of storytelling, conveying the events. And I say this fully aware that I fall prey to these very same tendencies, so my performative disdain is absolute projection. All the same, I give The Blackcoat's Daughter 2 stars. Look, not more than 20 seconds into researching Perkins' past reveals some big-time shadow living and incomprehensible tragedy, and makes his cinematic preoccupations of abandonment, disconnection, and sudden terror all the more obvious. I need more than an extended montage of vibes and half beats to resonate with. Work out your shit on screen, but really confront it and thrash it out. This ain't it. For me. And I know I'm totally talking to myself, and that's unfair.
There's something funny. You smiled a little.
Funny? No.
Really, I think I blame Donnie Darko. That solipsistic bundle of runny pieces of shit, elevated, ain't it cool, incoherent faux stoner vibes, opened the door for all sorts of midwit genre degradation that I don't know when we'll ever fully recover. I'm so sorry, Dad. Please, let me know what I'm missing. This came to me most highly lauded by good friend and sometimes co-pilot Lauren Yarn Ghost Molina, and I have to say, I mostly agree with her guidance. I can't let anyone totally win, it seems. I do love musicals, but Minnelli's own American Paris is one of my favorites of all time. But bottom line, somewhat upfront here, what I can't quite connect with in MMISL is the whole upperclassity of it. I just can't be brought to care about the crises of these people, of affluent suburbanites lamenting the misfortune of their upward mobility. Snark aside, I think there's just too little spent on the central romance between Judy Garland and Tom Drake that by the end I find myself wondering what it was all really about, aside from the great white hope of American Midwesternism that feels largely penned and lensed from the coastal elite. Never the fucking less, this was magical, hypnotic, and Judy Garland. What a set of pipes on that lady. Chills on note 1. I give Meet Me in St. Louis 4 stars. There's no way this works without Judy Garland. Her eyes reveal the distressed torture of the human unsettled in their soul, desperate for grounding, connection, understanding. She's heartbreaking, and I think I love overbites. I guess, like detective stories, I love romances that are from the streets, star-crossed, or that at least cross tracks. But one thing this does get absolutely spot on, we men are fucking clueless. We need explicit instruction and a specific address before we realize a lady fancies us. This week, my weekly pick of the week is, part of me can't get Black Widow out of my head, and part of me wants to love Meet Me in St. Louis more than my prefrontal cortex tells me I should. I'm gonna go with Meet Me in St. Louis. The talent and execution are undeniable. Watch it to see what every magnet school production you get dragged to is trying to pull off. This week's bonus feature is... right, Laura. Maybe watch it twice. Thank you so much for watching. You can follow me on Instagram and X to see what movies I'm renting next, and pretty much everything is on my letterbox. I am going to go watch some more movies. I hope you do too. Video well.